Obviously, a team that's earned the #1 ranking in the country, playing as well as anybody. This is your biggest test of the season, I guess, right?
Yeah. Obviously when you're dealing with an elite offense, elite defense, but also a team that can play multiple ways. So it's not like they just, have their starting five and that's it. They'll finish games with different guys that come off the bench. And that's what great teams have, right? They have more than 5 starters. So it's, they have speed, they have athleticism, they have the ability to break you down off the dribble from a lot of different people. Their skill level, great rebounding team, best defensive team in the country, and just a lot of different ways to get you from an offensive standpoint. Like, if you can't handle them on the glass and you can't handle them in transition, there's not much hope for you right there. You have to be able to take care of the ball, you have to be able to rebound the ball, and you have to keep them out of transition. When they're stealing points like that to go along with their skill package, from their whole team, ends up being a long night for the opponent.
Obviously, very different personnel from Nebraska and Iowa, but the last couple of games here, what's brought the sort of fight and the physicality out of the front court?
Yeah, well, TK has really set the tone for us. Oscar was so good on the offensive glass against Nebraska, getting 10 offensive rebounds in any game. Is a hell of a stat. But I just thought, his 19 total rebounds against Nebraska, his 11 rebounds in the first half against Iowa. Think about that. He got 30 rebounds in 60 minutes. It's pretty hard to do. Yeah, I just think they set the tone for us, and I liked our execution in both games. We made more shots in the Iowa game, and that really helped us. But yeah, it's just his ability to go get the basketball, Oscar's ability to get it. Sometimes it's different with how guys play, where shots come from, and who you have to box out. Sometimes, you get into some veers and veer backs, some switches, to where you're not always on somebody like yourself. And sometimes that helps you, sometimes that hurts you. It just depends, on where shots are coming from.
Yeah. Just your thoughts on Lendeborg, what he means to them, what challenges he's in for you?
Yeah, good player. Can play the 3 and the 4, can handle the basketball, can break you down, can go make plays for himself. Very good defensive player, can block shots, gives you a different element, as a big 3, or even at the 4, they start 3 shot blockers, which who in the hell does that, right? You go along with Mara and Marez Johnson and him. But no, Yaxel Lendeborg is a very, very good player. Very competitive, gets on the glass, can pass the basketball, can make threes, can drive it. Just sometimes the spacing, because their size is so big, but if you overhelp, they just flip that ball up to him or Marez or Mara, and that's tough to deal with. You got to do a good job with Lendeborg, trying to limit his touches and keeping him out of the paint, because when he gets there, he's pretty efficient, gets to the free throw line.
You mentioned 3 shot blockers, their defense, and you've said at times when shots aren't falling, that's the other things you do. This feels like a game where the shots have to fall to have a chance to beat that team, right? The only team that beat them made 15 threes this season.
Yeah, I was going to say, you're going to have to make some threes. You're going to have to stretch them out. If you don't have to stretch them out and they can stay at home and protect the paint the whole game, there's a reason why they're the #1 defense in the country. They switch a lot, and so they try to take you out of your actions. You got to be able to break them down off the dribble at times when they get in rotations. You have to be able to get the ball to the paint. And I think that's, more important than anything. Then good things happen. If you can't get there and they just pressure you and you can't, break them down at all, whether that's through your action off the dribble, you get some really tough shots at the end of the shot clock. So I think that's an important piece, for anybody against, an elite team. If you just have one of those games where you execute great, you don't make shots, there's a reason why they're labeled a great team.
How has your background playing with, as you call, ultimate size at Purdue, informed your perspective when you have to play teams like Michigan, teams teams that have the sort of size that Purdue's traditionally had?
Yeah, well, you just, you know what works and you know what doesn't work. You know what gives you the best chance. So like if you have to defend them, like there's just certain things that you're gonna have to give into. Like when we had Zach Edey, if you just let us get everything, like we were gonna probably win the game. He was just too good of a player. But if you took something away and then we weren't on top of our offensive game, it was, that's where things gave us, a little bit more trouble. So I think with those guys, you have to understand, when he's deep versus when he's not deep, more or less. And that was kind of how Zachary was. When he's deep, man, it's a hard cover. It's a tough cover. You got to do your work early. If you don't do your work early, you're either getting scored on or you're fouling them. But it's depends, like their ball screen coverage. Sometimes they'll be up. Sometimes they'll be more of a deeper drop. Just kind of depends on who they're playing and what they're doing. And there's gonna be space there when you have somebody that big. It's how you manipulate the defense and what you do with that space. And I think that's an important, piece of the game, just the reads you make out of it. But it's not one of those things that's just carte blanche. That's, hey, do this and it's going to definitely work. There's reads to it. And anytime you have the length on the ball to go along with that kind of size in a ball screen, it's easy to look on tape and say, here's what you should do. But it's a lot harder to get that job done.
Matt, you've got a lot of seniors who don't have many games left here. How are they handling it, just as people, and are there like words of wisdom that you give them just to kind of handle the last little bit?
I haven't given them any words of wisdom. We just moved to the next game, more than anything. We just moved to the next game and, had a good win versus Iowa, and now you move to Michigan, and then, after that, I think things, kind of set in what you're talking about when you get to your last game. It doesn't, like, you're not 6 games away and you start to think about it. You start to worry about things. Like, now you just move to the next game. And we want all these games to be meaningful games. And the only way for us in the situation we're in is by keep winning. Because if you don't, now, like, you're going to get separated from trying to win a championship. Like, you're not winning the Big Ten if you can't win this game. You're just not. Because I don't know how many losses they'll get. And so, like, that's where it's at. But they can still be meaningful no matter what, because you're improving your seed, you're helping yourself get better, you're doing things. But, it's why you play the game. You play the game to win a Big Ten championship, to go to a Final Four and hopefully win a national championship.
You talk about program development. Is Trey kind of the poster child for that, being a guy who redshirted, then was a guy coming off the bench, then he's a starter, but he's not getting a lot of shots?
Right.
He's one of the dominant scorers in the league, and now he's one of the dominant rebounders of the league.
Yeah, no question. He's had to sacrifice a little bit here, and from a scoring standpoint. And if you look at the great teams, in college basketball, and you look at the size they have, not all the great teams are big, but most of them are. In terms of having quality front lines and, the reigning national champs, you look at Florida, you look at Michigan, you look at Arizona, you look at Duke, like you just, across the line, Iowa State, Houston, like you see really, really good, big physical front lines. Not all the time. They can play small a little bit too, just like we can do with JB, but I think that's the key, is to be able to, have somebody like Trey Kaufman, and then each year you develop a part of him not being able to hit it early as Zach was there. So you had to function with Zach, and he gets better every year. He puts a lot of time into it. He's worked really hard on his game, but he's also at a point right now where, like, he's shown that he can score the basketball, and he has moments where he, that's the case. But, we've really, needed him to rebound, really needed him to defend, and also score for us. But he's playmaking a lot also. If we get into that short roll and we get that ball in the middle of the court, he does a great job of manipulating the defense.
How important these seniors been for kind of righting the ship, kind of getting back on track?
Right.
This game, kind of how important are they going to be to tomorrow night?
Yeah, most seasons you're going to have a dip somewhere. A lot of times multiple dips, right? Where you lose. Last year I think we lost 4 in a row. This year we lost 3 in a row. We still get to the Sweet 16, but we don't win our league. And so like you got to be able to get through those times and get better, you know, while you're struggling a little bit. But you know, it's just one of those things where, you know, you're just trying to grow as a group. We've stayed with the same starting five, you know, the whole year. I think we'll have some times where, you know, some guys will finish, they'll come off the bench for us, other times not. And most of the time it's been our starters. So yeah, just trying to, you know, we won 4 in a row with 3 of those being on the road. Our game that we probably played poor in those 4 games was our home game. We didn't play great there, but I thought they did some good things. We missed open shots. We get into that rut sometimes. We let that affect us where we are efficient, get good shots, miss good shots, and then it kind of affects the rest of the game where we just can't get to where we play as well. But I like that game for us because I don't look at us as a great defensive team. You know, there's nights we're good, but like we finished off that game by having 7 straight stops. And so you learn to win it differently, like winning our game against Iowa here. They really had some guys make some shots that don't normally make shots. But we finished it off by just being, you know, a lead offensively in that last 10 minutes of the game.
Last one, dude.
You said you don't look at this team as being a great defensive team. Trey said that after all this talk about communication on defense, that as the effort has gone better, communication has sort of followed.
Right.
I guess just what are you seeing from a trend standpoint right now? Is it trending in the direction you want defensively?
Yeah.
And what's the gap that's in these?
But
games?
it's, you know, you're not playing the same team over and over in the same style, so it brings different issues each game that you play. So that's kind of the crux of it all. Like Michigan causes more problems than other people. Illinois causes more problems than other people. It doesn't mean other teams can't beat you, because they can. But like when you put that much skill and talent out on the court, at the same time it gets really difficult sometimes in decision making in terms of like what to do. When it's a little bit less, it helps us. It really helps us. So you just keep going. There's certain things that are going to stay the same from game to game. There's certain things that'll change at times. And I think for us, like some of the things that you mentioned, like communication can't be an issue. Right? Like you got to communicate out on the floor. You got to be in a stance. You got to be ready. You got to be talking about what's going on, and just helping your cause. So, yeah, it's all, you know, one thing can kind of lead to another. You play well offensively, it helps that because your defense is set a lot more. If we're turning the ball over or we're in transition a lot because it misses, it just makes it harder for us. But it makes it harder for everybody. Like, you know, you can't control sometimes making and missing shots, but you can control taking care of the basketball. So like those are like the things that you just don't want those type of live ball turnovers, because it's really hard, especially with a team like Michigan, who's one of the best in the country, if not the best in transition. Thanks.
Thank you, man.
Yep.